What are you making?
I'm mixing up a stew to give corporate a different view. Have a taste. Welcome to the Corporate Kitchen. I'm your host, Tiger, and today on the menu is Rejection. We talked about this in the very first episode. Very first episode of this podcast, third takeaway, was rejection is normal. It's about time that we dove into it a little bit deeper and whipped up some ideas about it. Rejection should be normal. You should treat it as normal. And it's a part of everyday life. It's something that we tend to get emotionally attached to. We tend to take it personally, and we tend to focus way too much. We spend way too much thought on rejection. Some of them have way bigger impacts than others. It's very easy to think about this when it comes to love and relationships. You know, your first crush, your first intimate partner, your first marriage, first divorce, first child. Those ships create pretty much life moments. And when they come to a point that's different than you thought it was going to go to, or different than what you thought, the direction was different than what you thought it was going to go in. You know, that first breakup, that first time that you did get rejected intimately, or that first divorce, you know, when all those events that create absolute life moments change, it's considered not change for the better, and it's a type of rejection, and those are few and far between. It's definitely something a part of life, but they're much more spread out, and those events are definitely way more significant. When we talk about rejection, especially in this episode, we're not really hitting those. Those exist. Those are like the strongest part of the spectrum. The type of rejection you see every day on the other end, very small, very minute, but at the same time, it's still rejection that people get caught up on, that people get hung up on. And we're going to talk about why a little bit and focus on that spectrum, that end of the spectrum in terms of rejection. As we do with every episode, let's start with the definition. According to the Merriam-Webster, the definition of rejection as a noun is 1A, the action of rejecting, the state of being rejected. 1B, an immune response in which foreign tissue is attacked by immune system components of the recipient organism. That's interesting. Okay. And 2, something rejected. Don't you love these types of definitions where you're using the word in the definition? Rejection. The state of being rejected. The action of rejecting. Something rejected. All right. Obviously, we got to, unfold this loaf here and figure out what's actually inside. So if we cut this cupcake in half, the definition of rejected as an adjective is 1, not given approval or acceptance. 2, a medical, that's a big word. Let's see if I can do this. Marked by or exhibiting immunological rejection. Oh, I did it there. Ah, there's the word in definition again. Jesus. The definition of rejected as an adjective has rejection in it, and the definition of rejection has rejected in it. Jesus Christ. So here we are. But when we took that definition, we do have something we can work with. We come down to 1A of rejection, and then if we add in 1 from rejected as an adjective, it gives us the state of not giving approval or acceptance. The state of not giving approval or acceptance is the definition of rejection. We're not giving approval to something, or we're not accepting something. And that's going to walk us into our first takeaway. You're going to reject yourself more than others reject you. The big moment that we talked about in the beginning of this episode that I mentioned, the life moments, the divorce, the partnership, that's all with someone else. That's external type rejection. And that's the one that tends to be taken a little bit more personal because it's not you. The feeling is someone else is rejecting you. And that tends to hurt harder. But the reality is, you reject yourself more than others reject you. You won't give yourself approval or accept something more than someone does not give your approval or does not accept it. And it's very subtle. Sometimes when you decide to go to the store and have fast food despite the fact that you bought $200 worth of groceries, you have rejected the notion of maintaining whatever you were going to do when you bought all those groceries. When you snooze your alarm, you are rejecting the fact of getting up. All this may seems like petty, and it's like, oh, okay, well, if you're going to go down that path, then every decision you make has a level of rejection in it. Yes and no. There's definitely some yes to that. The key thing that I want you to remember on why it's important to recognize that you reject yourself so much is when you don't, or when you realize you're doing it, what are you doing? You're building your confidence. If we look at the Merriam-Webster for the definition of confidence, it's the quality or state of being certain. If you're in rejection, you're in the state of not giving approval or acceptance. There are times where you may feel absolutely certain and confident that you are correct in not giving that approval or acceptance. That's definitely could be the case sometimes. But if we step away and we look at it from the quality of state of being certain, right? You are moving forward and you're considering that what you're doing is right. You're not avoiding acceptance. If you're certain, you're giving acceptance to whatever the situation is, even in the form of disavowing or discontinuing or discrediting, disapproval, whatever you want to use, when it's not necessarily in favor of, but you're absolutely certain, you're giving acceptance to that possible non acceptance. I know that's a little confusing, so I'll say that one more time. Even when if you have high confidence, that means you are certain. That certainty can come in perceived positive and negative motions. You can be certain of doing something or certain of not doing something. Just because you're certain of not doing something does not necessarily mean you're in a state of rejection. You can be certain of not doing something, because it's also true that you can be very concerned and not approving not doing something. And that's where that rejection comes in. When you know you shouldn't do something, we all know what this is. When we're a kid and we're not supposed to be doing something, but we do it anyway, there you go, right? You are moving forward with rejecting what you should be doing. You're not supposed to be that. You're not supposed to be that. But you're a kid and you're confident and you're like, "Oh, I'm just going to go do this cuz I'm confident in the answer." And what happens? Consequences. We get in trouble. This is very synonymous if you think about it, to make it a lot easier, and this is why we're in the corporate kitchen. Indigestion. This is very similar to indigestion. The reason for that is that for most people, you know what gives you indigestion. You know what does it, whether it's high salty foods, whether it's spicy foods, whether it's a certain type of food. Most people know what does it for them, but they'll choose to do it anyway. They know the consequences, but they're going to move forward anyway. However, your body's going to reject it. And that's where the indigestion comes in, because the mind said yes, but the body says absolutely not, right? Absolutely. We will not give you approval or acceptance to go through this. Switching gears to how this plays out in the office is when you get your emails from people that are just being rude, and it's like, I'm not going to reply to that. I'm not going to give them the time of day. I'm not going to do that assignment. Hey, we need this assignment by close of business. Can you get on it? No, I'm not doing that. I'll delay it. That's tomorrow's problem. With confidence comes discipline. That's something that we're getting ready to talk about in a little bit. But at work, there's a lot of small things here and there that you really have to be conscious of you doing and you choosing, whether you choose to do it or you choose not to do it. We talked about lunch, right? If you choose to take your lunch, that's great. If you reject taking lunch and you're just going to work through lunch, you're rejecting what your body needs. You're rejecting that break that you should be having. If you are supposed to get an assignment done by that day, end of that day, and you don't do it, you're rejecting the performance that's required of you. And it's a compound thing, which is why the definition is the state of not giving approval or acceptance. Those of you that work in industries, especially like manufacturing and sales, where people have worked at one spot for a very long time, you see with those tenured people that they're set in their ways. And if they're negative, they are always negative. Always negative. When we talk about a state of just not giving approval, not giving acceptance, it's the tenured people because they've conditioned themselves over a long period of time that this is not the right way to go. This is something I'm not going to give approval or acceptance to. And they believed it. It started off small. They didn't just walk into corporate America day one and say, no, it happened. And then it happened again and then it happened again. So this is time number 3,000 for them. And they're just like, I'm not doing that. Great example of this are people who decide and set the precedents, right? I'm gonna do a positive version. I know when we say rejection, it sounds negative, but let me spin it positive for you. People that set the precedents that they don't work nights and weekends. When they leave the office, that's it. Don't call me when I leave. Don't call me on the weekends. They are in a state of rejection to working outside of work hours. And that's some of you listening. You will not work when you're not in that office or when that computer's not on. You are not working. That is a form of rejection, but it's positive. It's a positive condition that you're doing for yourself. So just because it's not giving approval or not giving acceptance doesn't necessarily mean it's all for bad things. Again, it's like indigestion. We know that it's bad for your stomach. It's a bad feeling and it makes you feel bad, but the journey may be worth it. You may choose to go through it anyway because you're going to have the spicy curry that was made like fresh, or you're going to a wing place and they have very hot wings, hot Nashville chicken sandwich, whatever. You're put in a situation where you have the confidence. You're in a state of being certain that although you're going to have to deal with the consequences later, it's okay. I'm going to give acceptance to take this risk. When you're not in a state of giving acceptance and when you're in a state of not giving approval to things, you could condition yourself to a negative mindset, to a negative health, bad health. People that tend to just be negative all the time don't necessarily tend to be the healthiest people. When you have a negative mind, it also negatively affects your health. And that's going to walk us right into our second takeaway. As we talk about the conditioning, the second takeaway is it happens every day. It's a form of discipline. Again, going back, we just talked about lunch and we talked about eating at lunch and the portions that you have, the type of food that you have. If you ate horrible or if you eat horrible at lunch every single day and you can feel it actively disrupting your afternoon flow, your afternoon work performance, and you're consciously aware, you don't make the change, you're in a state of rejection. You're intentionally not giving any sort of acceptance to alternative ways in a way, and you're accepting what's detrimental to you. If you know that your performance is taking a hit because you're eating too much at lunch or because the food that you're eating is upsetting your stomach and you just continue to go down that path, you're in a state of rejection. And that's not good because when you condition yourself to do that, it creates bad habits. And then you end up as one of those tenured people that we were just talking about earlier that picked up on those bad habits and live through those bad habits. It happens every day. It's a form of discipline. Let's give you a very simple example. What time do you wake up in the morning? Do you wake up at your first alarm? Do you snooze your first alarm? For my snoozers, we got to do better. We got to do better. We are not disciplined enough to accept that we need to get up. We're not giving the approval to get up in the morning. And I know I'm not a morning person. I hear the excuse like, I don't want to wake up at that time, or I only wake up at that time and let the dogs out. Whatever you want to make. It's just excuses because you're not giving the approval and acceptance to get up when you first initiated it. That's just mindset of rejection. Now, think about when you first did that, when you first snoozed the alarm, ever. And now think of where you are now. How long has that been? Are we talking months? Are we talking years? We're probably talking years that you've been snoozing the alarm. You have made a habit and conditioned yourself to that form of rejection. Those of you that are just starting your corporate America career, build your habits now. Recognize some of those things. Be open to changing. Because if you condition yourself in a detrimental way, it's going to be that much harder to overcome that level of rejection. People who feel as though they have a low state of rejection and they don't reject many things, number one, their confidence is high, but two, they're also adaptable. They are more willing to pivot and give acceptance to things that they previously did not give acceptance to. That comes with discipline. Working out is also a very good example here. When you work out, you usually have to maintain a routine to get to the physique that you want to get to. That routine takes discipline. If you're feeling it, you're like, oh, today might just be a rest day. You're rejecting the idea of holding on. You're not conditioning yourself to the proper commitment that you made. You're not giving acceptance to holding yourself accountable and getting in the gym. And I got it. Some days you just need to rest. You need the break. Got it. But when you're trying to build these habits, you got to push the rejection down. You got to push it. And working out is a very good example because I know you take that one class, it kicks your butt. Next day, it's not that day. The next day you are feeling it. And it's like, I don't think I ever want to go in there again. That rejection starts to creep up and it starts to track in your mind. Don't give it runway. Do not give it the opportunity to spread any further than it is as a small slab of butter on that piece of bread. Do not spread it. Do not let it spread. Because if you let it, it will spread all the way across. And then you'll have butter toast. We don't want butter toast. We just want one piece of butter in the middle. That's it. So, got to make sure that we recognize that it does happen every day. And therefore, we have to be disciplined. Going back to the indigestion, again, most people with it knows what causes it. They know what types of foods would give them it. A lot of people already have Pepto, Tums, whatever they need stacked in their house in preparation for the decisions that they're going to make. In some levels, it's confidence. I'm absolutely certain because I have the friend coming over that's going to make a spicy dish. I'm just going to take the L and we'll go through it. Other times, if you're consciously choosing to put yourself in a position to have indigestion and you don't need to, you're giving rejection to good health. This is the bad health. Once in a while, yes, got it, understood. We're not talking once in a while. We're talking daily, happens every day, that you're not disciplined enough to not do something. You're rejecting, you're not giving the approval to eat better so that you can feel better. I know that fast food isn't good for me, but I'm going to eat it every day. Cooking takes too long. You're just not giving approval to give yourself time to better yourself. And that becomes a problem. Indigestion, if not addressed, gets worse over time and can lead to more serious issues if not properly addressed. You got the Tums, you got the Pepto, that may be temporary measures, but that's not going to be everlasting. You have to, at some point, stop the rejection, make the right decision, and eat better and take care of yourself so that you can get to a more prosperous level. And I'm just going to walk right into the third takeaway. It's not personal. Third takeaway, it's not personal. I know, again, when at the very beginning of this episode, we talked about the ships that drive some of the external rejection that we experience, and it feels personal. The girlfriend, boyfriend broke up with me, first relationship, it hurts, right? One-time thing. It's not the everyday thing that you see. If you're getting broken up with every single day, that's a whole different story, maybe a whole different podcast. But, the first time you break up probably hurts. The times thereafter shouldn't hurt as bad because you're not living in a state of not giving yourself approval or acceptance of the situation that's happening. On that first breakup, it's hard to give that approval. Hey, this is actually over. That first divorce, I have to accept that despite the entire investment that I made in this single person, if you have more than one person, again, way different podcast. So, in a divorce mindset, all this that you invested in a single person, maybe even grew a family with this person, now comes to an end, and I have to accept that notion. That's hard. That is very hard to do, and that's why in those moments, the rejection intensity is high because getting past that threshold of acceptance is a long road and a difficult road. But you don't want to make it permanent. When we take things personally, it's usually a permanent thing. If someone said something disrespectful about your parents or about your child or about your spouse that crossed the line, you will never forget that. You will never forget that. That's something that you would never give acceptance to. If someone was disrespectful to you in the office, you had the one boss that screams and yells, never giving acceptance to that behavior, sort of thing. If someone messed with your money, you're never going to give acceptance to something like that. Those major events, I can definitely see the argument for that being personal. The divorce, the first breakup, those larger events, there could be an argument that they're personal, but they're not. It just takes a while, but you eventually give acceptance to it. You get to the point of giving it the approval that you're going to move on with your life. When those are large events, those are very large, and those are extreme cases. When we think about the day-to-day stuff, let it go. You send out an email and someone sends you a nasty email back. Let it go. Don't hold a level of disapproval for them that you're not going to give them acceptance to be able to talk to you at that point anymore. And, you're going to have to talk to my boss, or I'll never give the approval to myself to email you back again. It's not personal. Don't take it that way. If you are on a project, someone doesn't hold their end of the bargain, they have specific tasks that they need to follow or accomplish, and they didn't do it, or they didn't do it in a timely manner. Don't take it personally. Don't give thought, emotion, energy to not giving the approval or acceptance of that person moving forward. That's wasted energy. It's not personal. When we think about the indigestion again, it's indigestion's not personal. It's not your body's not saying, "Hey, I don't like you. Here, have heartburn. Here, have a stomach ache. Here, feel this." It's not personal. Even when you know that what you're going to eat is going to cause indigestion. Yeah, I'm going to have the spiciest Thai food. I'm going to do spicy basil fried rice and I want extra hot sauce on it. You know it's going to cause you pain. You know your stomach is going to not be happy about it, but it's not personal. That's just who you are and that's how your body is. And that's okay. Your stomach is not saying, "Hey, I don't like you." Like, no, you're gonna I'll make sure you regret this decision. It's like that's just how it is. It's not personal. And that's why you have the people that know about it usually have Tums and Pepto in their house. And they tend to not make a habit of it because obviously they don't want to have this type of behavior be detrimental to their health. At the same time though, it does cut off some of the foods that you can eat. So if you can indulge and then mitigate the symptoms with just a simple over the counter, sometimes indulging makes sense and it's not personal. It's not personal from your body to you and it's not personal from you to your body. It is just standard business. You have to take that same mindset when you're in the corporate office. It's business at the end of the day. Whether you choose to do or choose not to do, it should not be personal. Here's a really good example. You got passed up for the job. You applied. You were told that you were a preferred candidate. It's a promotion, which means it'll lead to significantly more money for you. You did the interview. You absolutely did phenomenal in the interview. All signs were pointing to, hey, you're going to get this job. And one of two things happen. You either never hear back and you assume that you didn't get it. You eventually get that HR notification, or maybe you don't. So you have to spend a little bit longer to give acceptance to the situation that happened, or you're told it didn't go to you. And at the point of not giving acceptance to the situation, I mean, that's high, right? You're just at, from a bar of 0 to 100, you're probably at 120 of not giving acceptance to the situation. But then you cool down, the emotions starts to rationalize the situation. You'll cool down to about 80. You'll get more information later that week or the next week. You find out that it went to the VP's child. Okay. Now you can give acceptance to the situation because you know it had nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you because it wasn't personal. It was nepotism for that case. Sometimes you don't get the reason. Sometimes you will go through that whole process told it's not you. The next week you hear some rumors and some stories, but you don't actually get the true rationale as to why you're not chosen. That may take it a little bit longer to get to the point of acceptance, to give approval of something, but it shouldn't keep you in a state of rejection. It shouldn't hold you because it's not personal. It's just business. It's not personal at all. When you're early in your career, there are going to be many decisions that are made without your approval, without your input, or they may have asked you for your advice and your guidance, and you gave them the full manual on how to do it, and they completely ignore it and go 180. It's not personal. When you take it personally, you're in that mode of rejection. And again, if you build that to a condition and a habit, it's going to negatively affect your mindset and possibly your health. You don't want to do that. Just give acceptance to the situation because it's not personal. It's crazy out here in corporate America, and I have to say, there's plenty of situations that I've been in that you almost wanna sit down and be like, "WTF just happened? What in the world just happened?" I need answers to how we got to where we were because in my train of thought, in my journey of the events that just corresponded, this should have been the result. We should have been at A. Somehow we're at N. What? And again, sometimes you get that rationale and justification of how you landed at N. Many times you don't. Many times you don't. So you can't be in the mode of rejection of, hey, I'm not going to give acceptance to what happened because I don't understand what happened. You're never going to always understand what happened. That's just a part of life. You got to move on. You got to be disciplined enough to accept the situation that you're in, accept the circumstances, and figure out what's the next plan of action. What's the next plan of attack? Once again, going back to you got passed up for the job. We all, most of us, most of us will spend our life having to apply to jobs, having to do interviews, having to beat out our competition. Yeah, my network got me the interview, but I still had to do the interview. I leveraged my network to try to get this job. Yeah, that's fine. But that means if we're doing the application, if we're doing the interview, there's going to be many times that we don't get the job, which means it's just a part of life. It's just a part of life. There's only so many spots. There's only so many executives, only so many millionaires, only so many billionaires, whether you're self made or you got it from your investments. If you ever meet someone that's in private equity, have a conversation with them about rejection. You want to hear stories about just constantly not getting acceptance and then potentially putting themselves in a state of not giving acceptance to anything, not wanting to try. Private equity people have to persevere in situations. If they live in a state of rejection, they would never succeed. They get disapproval all the time externally, but they don't internalize it and take it personally because it's business for them and they have to move on. You have to continue to move on. If you're going to thrive, you can't stop the progression. Got to keep the motion going. So let's wrap up as we talked about rejection today. 3 main takeaways. Number 1, you reject yourself more often than others reject you. Just build your confidence. I know it may have been confusing when we talked about it, but when you talk about confidence, the quality of state of being certain, you can be certain about moving left or right, top, bottom, yes, no. It's not always positive. When we brought up indigestion, people know it's like, I'm going to eat this anyway, knowing that my body's going to reject it, and that's okay. You can build confidence over not doing things too. Just don't put yourself in a spot where you're conditioning yourself to not give approval to things, to not take that chance, to not take that risk, to constantly not gain the approval of something. 2, it happens every day and it's a form of discipline. It brings you discipline when you are able to persevere, overcome. Hey, we had the 6th org change this year. Oh Lord, we're never gonna have a stable org structure. Why would I even try to maintain any level of respect for this company? Don't do that to yourself. There's so many things that happen every single day that just doesn't involve you, that decisions are made without you. You have to look at the things that you control, that you deal with every day. Waking up in the morning, what you eat for breakfast, when you work out, when you take lunch, how you hold your meetings, what cadence you do your meetings, everything under your control. And the habits you build is going to be your form of discipline. As long as it's not detrimental to your health and your performance, you're in a positive acceptance. But if you're doing things that are intentionally not great for you, don't do that. You're going to be in a state of rejection. You do that over the years, you're not going to be happy. And third takeaway, as we talked about, it's not personal. It feels personal. man, that first breakup, it felt personal. It's something that you're gonna remember, but you'll eventually give acceptance to. When you leave that first job, when you leave that first company, if you do, I mean, that happens more often nowadays than before, than the pitch-in generation. When you leave that first company, you're gonna take notice of it. But nowadays, people leave for so much more money that it's so much easier to give acceptance to leaving. But it is hard for other people, and you'll notice that some people will stay at the same company that seems like forever because they won't give approval to seeking new things. They won't give approval to moving. They won't give approval to bettering themselves and just staying at a constant flow. You can't be in a state of rejection and not You can't be in a state of rejection and still think you're doing the best for yourself. In order to thrive, we have to take risks, we have to be confident, and we just have to be in a state of accepting new things. And with that, we'll turn off this stove, take off the thinking apron, and let's just say the dishes will get done later. This topic wasn't a big mess, but if we learned something today, then we know there's a little cleaning up to do. I do want to talk this topic more, maybe trade stories about this soon, like this Thursday soon. I hope to see you there. Thanks for being in the corporate kitchen today. I'm your host, Tiger. Until next time.